Hello and welcome to the United Federation of Reddit podcast. I'm BigJ76.
And I'm Yazman.
I'm Smash.
And I'm Mars33.
This podcast is for discussion of news and events centered around the Reddit Star Trek community. You can find links to these subreddits on the sidebar of r/United Federation. That's reddit.com/r/United Federation. Smash, what do we have on the agenda for tonight?
We're going to discuss Star Trek Discovery, how it's been received on Reddit, and both seasons and the short treks too.
And Discovery has created a lot of talk in the Star Trek Reddit community. Some like it, some not so much. But after this most recent episode, now this is going to date the podcast a little bit, but we are 2 episodes in to this season. And there's a thread here that really caught my eye. It's by a Reddit user. Now I might mess up this name. It looks like Javid Sanders 44. How would you JAHVID Javid? Okay, so Javid Sanders 44.
Well, let's go with that for consistency.
Okay. So this is his title. This is it. Season 2, Episode 2 is where Star Trek Discovery grew its beard. What do you think about that statement?
What subreddit's that on, first of all?
That's on Star Trek.
Okay. That's a good title. That's a good title.
It is a really good title.
Everybody's so, like, the funny thing is about season 2 is how hyped everybody is about the beard, like about Spock having a beard.
Oh, Spock having the beard. Well, okay, so that brought a lot of controversy. Spock having his beard. So literally, season 2 is when Discovery grew the beard, because we will see Spock with a beard. And I have to tell you, one of the most ludicrous things that I have seen or heard, and only this would come out of Reddit, and you guys may have seen this thread a little while back. This was during the trailers for Star Trek and some of the early pictures of Spock, and there was a lot of digging through canon that Spock can't have a beard in the season of Discovery because he never mentioned anything about having grown hair in any other episode or movie of Star Trek.
Well, failure to mention something doesn't, that's a negative, doesn't necessarily confirm a positive.
It doesn't preclude that it didn't happen, but I thought it was just kind of humorous.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, people can, I think it's funny with some of the canon digging, like, what's that user, the user who does the canon reference posts? Because those posts, man, like, it seems like the writers of this show really do some deep digging themselves.
I can't say that I've...
Do you know the threads I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about, the canon references. I'm going to... I'm glad that you brought that up, because I'm looking here. The user who does that
Antithesis. That's their name.
Antithesis.
So if you're Antithesis, listening to this right now, you're doing a damn good job. Keep it up.
It's amazing. It's amazing, these canon references. And I should say, I probably should have done this right at the beginning, but I will do it now. There may be some spoilers in this podcast episode, this episode about Discovery. So
this is not a non-spoiler episode.
That's right. If you have not seen the 4 short treks, if you have not seen season 2, episode 1 and 2 yet, please turn back. Come back and listen later, because I cannot guarantee that there won't be a spoiler, because I know for sure Smash loves to gossip.
In moderation, definitely. And it's funny you mentioned gossip, because I just sorted by controversial, and I've been just going down reading what people have been saying that's been, upvoted or downvoted. And the one that stuck out to me is by Rusty Buckets. And they say, my roommate turned to me and said, "This is good." And then to which I said, "It's an actual Star Trek episode." And I don't know if I agree with that, which is really funny, because I feel like before season 2, I was really on board with Discovery. But now I feel like I'm jumping ship.
Really? Okay, so what makes you feel like you're ready to jump ship on Discovery? Because I really think that it does feel like Star Trek again.
It's hard to say. I feel like they really overplayed the whole like religion aspect of it. I agree with another commenter up here. I didn't note their username, but they mentioned that there are two people seeing dead people, and that's noteworthy. When has that been something that has happened consistently? And now it's two. It's very interesting.
Well, it is interesting that you said that, because you brought that up, and when you were doing that, I settled in on another post. This one by user's name is Mako2401. Tonight's episode, and this is in regards to season 2, episode 2. Tonight's episode felt like a Star Trek episode for me. Well done, CBS. And I certainly agree with that sentiment, because when I was watching that episode, it really felt like Star Trek again. And I'm not saying that season 1 did not, but there was something about it that just felt like it was so completely different from any other Star Trek show. And this is what it is. I'll just tell you guys, and you can tell me if I'm crazy, but on the original series, Next Generation, Voyager, Deep Space Nine, Enterprise, like, you knew who everyone was. You had your bridge crew, you had your people interchangeable on away team. But with season 1 of Discovery, it just sort of seemed like, all right, you know these 3 characters by name, the principals, and then after that, it was set decoration. Everyone else just kind of seemed like, okay, there's the red-haired, there's the red-haired girl flying the ship, and there's the android, robot-looking person, and it felt like,
I see where you're going with that.
Yeah, I couldn't put my finger on it, but it just felt very different. And then now with season 2, it seemed like, okay, well, because in the first episode, Pike did a roll call, sound off, I want to know everyone's names. And it wasn't so much for him, but also for the audience, because there were people sitting there that I had no idea who they were, what their names were.
Yeah, that's true. I think I guess what they might have been going for, this is just speculation, but I recall, and you may recall this as well, before the season 1 started, there was a big, they made a big deal about the fact that they're having like a main character, and they were saying like, oh, the main character's not the captain, and all this type of stuff. And I think narratively, it really did seem to be focused around a particular character, which obviously is Michael, a lot more than Star Trek usually is. Now, I also recall them saying, oh, the main character's not the captain this time, but I guess the way that previous shows have gone, only the original series, I think, was like season 1 of Discovery, in the sense that the original series really only had the 3 characters that were the focus of the show. Whereas I guess by this point we're used to, like Next Gen and Voyager and DS9, where it's just this big array of characters, and they're always getting their screen time. Do you get what I'm saying? And I think they've kind of moved towards that.
The thing about that is that they seem to be aiming towards the kind of popular culture of the original series, where you have the memorable Spock, Kirk, McCoy kind of thing, and
the Rutili,
yeah, so it kind of goes with that, and then maybe later on that they'll start moving more into the kind of TNG kind of thing, where it kind of sprawls out into different stories for different, with smaller characters. but it definitely seems like they're trying to kind of win over the audience that knows Star Trek as the original series rather than as TNG, DS9, Enterprise, all that kind of thing.
I think Pike definitely.
Oh, Pike is fantastic.
Pike is great.
If anybody says they don't like Pike, like it's a good thing you all said you like Pike, because I will fight you all if you say you don't. We'll schedule a time and place. I'll fly over there and we'll have a big old fight.
Buddy, I'll even buy your plane ticket for you.
That's right, but we don't need to because nobody is insane enough to say they don't like Pike. Who I think
How can you not like Pike?
Anson Mount has done a fantastic job.
And hats off to that actor. Yes, he has the way he's embodied, and I want to say the way he's embodied Pike. But honestly, there's not been a lot of Pike as a character. Now I know we had the Cage, the original pilot. We had Jeffrey Hunter who played Captain Pike, and I know that we had in TOS the Menagerie. And I don't recall the actor right off the top of my head, but it was not the actor who played Pike in the Cage. But Pike as a character, he was in a chair. Beep once for yes, twice for no. And then after that, we have Pike in 2 of the new Trek movies. So as a character, it just seemed like this is the first time that we've really gotten a good take on this person, and the way that Anson Mount, the actor who plays Pike, the way he embodies that role. I really think that because there has not been a lot of Pike beforehand, he really still had like a slate to make it his own.
It really felt like a bit of a blank slate, I think. I kind of agree. I mean, even now there's probably going to be at least a couple of people who listen to this later on who feel like they want to, get out the torches and pitchforks. But I don't feel like really Pike was fleshed out or really anything interesting in the Cage, the old episode at all. I mean, AKA the Menagerie. Like, he just felt like a bit of a dry, like, I'm the captain. Like, there wasn't really much to him. And the way he's been in Discovery has been, like you said, he's, I guess, kind of had a bit of a blank slate, and it's like we're really finally getting to see what this Pike character is all about, and I think that's gonna, like season 1 did in some ways with Sarek. I think seeing Pike like this is really going to enhance the later appearances of Pike.
And this is, when you talk about how relatable Pike is. I like this post. Now that this was in r/Star Trek Discovery, submitted today by Quantum Girl Go, was a meme or just an image macro of Pike skip across the universe on a highway made of mushrooms. That was from the the recent episode which was great, and it's humor. Pike has humor, which was completely lacking from Lorca last season. Lorca just really felt like a 2-dimensional mustache twirling villain.
I see that. I do. Reddit loves Pike. I mean, even on our Star Trek, right? There's
where they don't like anything. So
right
to get Reddit to agree.
Even though sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. So, for example, right now on the front page of Star Trek, by friend Zeska, there's a post that says, "I will legit be gutted when / if Pike leaves," and all the comments there are just in agreement. I mean, it's been great.
That's that's the problem with introducing Pike, is that you're introducing him as like a very charismatic and very likable person, but we all know that he's going to be the predecessor of Captain Kirk. Mm-hmm. And when he was first introduced, in the Cage, he was very wooden kind of character, and he was always been kind of written as the predecessor of Captain Kirk. even in like the reboots, where he was basically just this person who brings Kirk into, Starfleet. So with this one, I find that a lot of people are going to find it hard for it to actually let him go.
What I like is it kind of gives us, at least to my mind, we see Pike, and like you said he's very likable, very charismatic, and it really gives me the sense that like this is the bar that Kirk had to meet. Like this is the kind of standard that was set when Kirk became captain. So now it kind of makes me look at the original series, and I sort of think like this is what Kirk was trying to be like when he became captain.
And Murph, you made a good point. You're right. It's the fact that we like Pike very much, but we know that the show is going to be beholden to canon. However, here's something that I want to point out as a possibility. Now, I'm not saying that this is going to happen, but season 2 takes place in around 2257. The events of The Cage were 2254. So this is 3 years after Pike and Spock number 1's experience on Talos 4. Now, Kirk takes command of the Enterprise in 2266. Please don't ask me how or why I know all of this stuff, but I can barely remember my anniversary, my wedding anniversary, or, I have to pause on some kids' birthdays. This is useless knowledge that I cannot wow anyone with except you guys. So it's horrible. So basically we're in 9 years away from Kirk taking command of the Enterprise, which means that there's plenty of time to have Pike or have him now. And I really think it's unrealistic for him to be in command of Discovery after this season, even though he's a long way away from stepping down from the Enterprise. I don't think that we're going to get a whole lot more past this season of Pike, but it doesn't mean that he can't make any recurring appearances. Same with Spock or the Enterprise.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to continue in season 3, and that's fine. I mean, it could mean that in season 3 we'll get another captain, and it could be somebody fantastic. We'll
listen
have
to
wait
this.
and see.
So in that thread about Pike leaving, Reddit user Robert L. Burr, since his appointment is only for this crisis, he will most likely leave at the end of this season and return to the Enterprise. Make your peace with that now.
Yeah. So like they just finished a 5-year mission, I think it was implied, or it was outright said in the first episode, and then
they were on one.
Yeah, and the Enterprise is just, I mean, we saw what happened to it. So I guess he'll get repaired. He'll do his mission with Discovery and then go back to the 5-year mission or something.
Right. And it sounds like they do several 5-year missions, because by the time Kirk got on, that was like the last of several 5-year missions.
That's right. And
now, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I kind of like the idea that, of getting a new, if the captain's sort of regularly changing it up a bit. Like, I'm sure it'll stabilize eventually. But I do kind of like the idea of, we had Lorca in the first season, and we've got Pike now. Maybe we'll have somebody awesome next season. Like, hell, maybe my appreciation for Lorca will pay off, and we'll get Prime Universe Lorca in season 3.
He's gone. He's got to be gone. There's no way he survived in the Mirror Universe.
I think so. But the thing is, I really like the idea of the rotating captain.
I am voting for Saru for captain after the season. I think he's earned it. He needs to get
great.
it.
When we did have him, when he was acting captain, he was great.
Absolutely. Now, here's what I want to know. I want to know which character you guys like now. Who's your favorite character?
Tilly, hands down.
I have to agree.
Everybody, I'm gonna have to be the one person that doesn't like Tilly that much.
How can you not like Tilly?
Here's the thing. She's a good character and she's well written, but I just find her to be kind of annoying sometimes.
Then Yazman, you are going to love this comment by a Reddit user. I want to say Mathamon. Math, and then the letter E, and then Mon, M-O-N. I tell you, okay. Oh, you have? Well, yeah, Reddit users, if you're listening, if you want to get mentioned on this podcast, please come up with a username that is easy for me to pronounce, or is not lewd or something. But you'll love this guy, Yaz. I really need Tilly to act like she's in Starfleet in the 23rd century and not in an episode of Charles in Charge.
That's a good call.
I love her.
I just find
it does feel like she's in a sitcom.
It does, but it's also so when you're learning how to become a captain, like you're going to make mistakes, and she brings comedy to the show. There's a scene in particular I remember, it made me laugh out loud. They were, she was running down the hall, and she went left, and then it was like a dramatic pause because she went the wrong way, and then you see her running then right. It was just, I don't know, I think she's funny, she's smart, and I think they did a good job with her.
I think she's a good character, don't get me wrong. She's a good character, and she's well written, and I like her storylines, but just I find her to be kind of annoying sometimes. Like I have to agree with Stamets when he says don't talk so much. Like Tilly just needs to shut up sometimes.
She does talk a lot, that's for sure. Did you guys see okay, so there's a post on our Star Trek Tilly's desktop, and it's by More God Please. So we got a view of her desktop in the she's working in the teaser there. And so basically these people on Reddit, they have told us what was on her desktop. And if you look in the comments here, no name Batman put her to-do list, so her general to-do list, and on it is just really hilarious. She just says she wants to subspace mom. And it really ties back to her short. Did you guys like the short?
I did like her short. Yes,
it was good.
I don't mind Tilly. I like Tilly, and her short seemed like it was well received on Reddit, and I thought hers was good. There were some good
storyline. Her storyline in season 1 was great. In the mirror universe, I mean, that was a great storyline. The whole Captain Killy thing.
Like, there's some great gifts that came out of that too.
She was.
Oh yes. Let's talk about the gifts. Let's talk about the Star Trek gifts.
What have been your favorite so far for the new season, Big J?
Oh, there have been. Let me look here. Let me look. And I knew you were going to ask me that, and it's tough because there are so many of them, and so many talented ones. This is what I like. Now I'm gonna mention this one. This is by one of our fans, one of our listeners. His name is Camel Horse.
Yeah, he's done
Camel Horse. He's done several gifts, and one of the ones that he did that I liked. I'm looking for it now. It's still on the first page of Star Trek gifts, and it's a combined GIF from the original series and Discovery. We were talking about the cage just a little bit ago, and it's don't mind me just following up on some DSC/TOS consistency. And
yes, that's a good one.
That was a very good GIF. Basically, what he did was he took gift scenes from The Cage, and was able to find that they intercut, or they used things that he had mentioned before in canon that they used in Discovery. For example, Pike on The Cage, I'm tired of being responsible for 203 lives. And then fast forward to Discovery, episode 1. Burnham says scans show 203 crew members aboard. Very nice tie-in in canon. And then another part of the clip of the GIF goes back to The Cage, and Pike is saying, "That's Mojave. That's where I was born." And then jump to season 2, episode 1. Pike just beams aboard Discovery, and he's about to oust Saru, and he says, "Well, Commander, this is awkward, but back in Mojave, I learned the best way to get into a cold stream was to jump right in." And I like that, because finding that, it's finding that, because to be perfectly honest with you, that's what I like about seeing Discovery, and seeing that the writers are actually really trying to tie into canon, and for someone to on Reddit to find those things to put in, I thought was very well done. And I also like the GIF. I was expecting a red thing. Where's my damn red thing? It's from Captain Pike.
Yeah, I think in terms of Discovery GIFs, most of the Discovery GIFs I've seen have been from Frenza or you Murphs, or
we could talk an hour just on GIFs.
Or Camel Horse. Well, yeah, that's that's true.
Well,
all day,
Camel's
every
specialty
day.
is TOS rather than
Yeah, he's actually
doing
done
a TOS rewatch.
He's done a couple of Discovery GIFs though, and there hasn't actually been as many as you would think. So there's been a couple of people, 2 or 3, like Murphs and Frenza, and Camel Horse kind of holding it down for Discovery GIFs. So good job.
Murph's GIFs are okay. They're they're super average. I mean, we're talking mean, fierce average.
Not as average as mine, okay.
Like not extraordinary or unordinary, just dairy. I don't know.
Why did I just agree to join this podcast again? Is this a roasting of Merc 33?
We tricked you.
He loves those Voyager GIFs. And we all know that nobody actually watches Voyager, so Murph's is the one person making GIFs.
Well, the reason why I'm gifting Voyager at the moment is because I'm binging it for the first time. I've never actually watched it from start to finish. And I've been doing that for TNG, then DS9, and then Voyager. So if you look through my post history, that's the way it goes chronologically, with a bit of Discovery here and there.
Have you watched? Are you going to do Enterprise?
I'm going to do Enterprise after I finish Voyager, and then I'll be back to TOS and then the animated series.
Keen. So everybody, if you listen to this, get ready for some quality Enterprise gifts coming up eventually.
Oh, yes. Well,
once he finishes Voyager.
Right. But now are you going to sprinkle in some Discovery gifts in there?
Oh yeah, I'm not going to miss the new episodes of Discovery. I already actually have gifts made for episode 1 of season 2 of Discovery, and I'm going to be gifting the second one in like a day or two. So,
well, there's so many good moments, and that's what has made me really happy about getting new Star Trek content is the creative part of it. And I'm not just talking about the gifts. I'm talking about getting some memes in there and just some news about it, because it's nice to be able to have fresh Star Trek content and more Star Trek content coming in just to be able to discuss and to talk about. And I think I would be very remiss not to mention one of the biggest things that I think, in my opinion, it's been a big discussion when it comes to Discovery. It is difficult to have a discussion about Discovery on Reddit without someone talking about Smash pop quiz. What show is always going to come up in any Reddit discussion about Discovery?
No, it's happening. Don't say it, Smash. Don't say it.
Come on,
Please
Smash. Are you awake?
Don't do it.
I know.
Oh, why?
She said
Orville.
it. She said it.
Which, to be fair, is a great show.
It is.
I
It's
personally
really,
enjoy it. I think
I
it's
haven't
fun.
finished
and
season
cute.
1. I watched like the first 4 or 5 episodes. It's not a bad show. You know what? I think just constantly hearing about, salty people whining about Klingon makeup and saying the Orville's better. Watch the Orville kind of threw me off a bit. But it was good from what I have seen of it.
It's actually improved in season 2, I think. Season 1, there's a lot of very, very, obvious similarities between that and Next Generation, to the point where when I first started watching it, I thought that it was kind of like Seth MacFarlane is just making the show so he can play Star Trek. But
that's what it is, right?
Yeah, but like season 2, it seems to be a bit more creative. It seems to be diverging from what from actually just plagiarizing the Next Generation in places, and is actually making some creative storylines.
It's very obviously a next gen pastiche, and that's fine. But like you said, as long as they get a bit more creative and mix it up, do their own thing a bit more.
well, the thing about Discovery on Reddit is that they're turning it into a competition with the Orville, and I don't understand. I think that was self-made. Like I do not believe there's been any kind of, especially from Seth MacFarlane, that I want this, my show to compete directly with Discovery. And it's not that. It's just this is something that Reddit has created is this rivalry.
It's just the 5 very prolific, all 5 very prolific people who whine about Discovery all day, every day, feel like they need to get tribal about it for some reason. And it's like, I'll tell you a story about tribalism. Like,
Okay.
a friend of mine and I, this is a bit tangential to Star Trek, but I just think it's true, and I think it kind of illustrates like how people can get with stuff like this. Because a friend of mine and I used to kind of make fun of people getting. We used to go to GameFAQs.com a lot, right? And we would notice people getting tribal about consoles. They'd always be saying, "Oh, if you bought an Xbox, you're an idiot. Should have gotten a PS1, PS2, blah blah." And so we used to decide to be like, we used to say that we were going to be tribal about like Gatorade and Powerade. And so anytime we saw somebody drinking Powerade, we'd be like, "Get out of here, you bitch!" Like drinking that stuff. It's only Gatorade that's allowed in this town. Like, and it was really funny because eventually we met a few people that didn't realize it was a joke, and they kind of took it seriously. And I was like, it's so obviously satire, and you apparently love Gatorade so much that you actually thought it was real. And I think the whole thing with the Orville and Discovery that people do is kind of like that. It's just something that is so silly to get tribal about, but people get really people do it because they get really wrapped up in their hatred of something, or do you know what I mean?
I do. I definitely do. And the funny thing is, I have looked at some of the threads in the Orville on their subreddit, and tell me if I'm wrong, but it just seems like the Orville community as a whole is a lot more chipper and nicer, and they're having a better time. It's not a pissing match.
Because they don't have the baggage, like I think one thing that a lot of people have been longtime fans, and I'm not saying, oh, all you longtime fans, because I've been a fan since I was like 5, so I'm one of them. But I think a lot of longtime fans kind of have trouble dropping some of the baggage that they've got with Star Trek, and I think I think for some reason it seems to be, it's a big thing. Like if an alien was portrayed a certain way, people get really tied up and they go, 30 years ago, this is how it was in my day, and It should always be like that. And, and so you get these big debates that spiral off. The Orville doesn't have to deal with that. Season 1 was like 2 years ago. The longest heritage they've got is that it's sort of vaguely a pastiche of another show. So they're not, they don't really have anything to debate about, do they? Besides the very little material that they have got.
I think you're right.
They have the advantage that they don't have any baggage that weighs down opinions of longtime fans, because there are no longtime fans and there is no material before whatever comes out.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right about that. There's nothing to compare it to. They don't have to worry about canon being wrong or right, or how they analyze past episodes versus what they expect for the future. There's no expectations. It's all good fun.
Exactly. You don't have to talk about the changing looks of the Mocklins or the Klingons. You're seeing everything for the first time. There are not long, in-depth discussions about forehead ridges or things that were mentioned in an episode 20 years ago, but a show that takes place before that, and you don't have all the infighting. So it certainly does look to be like, well, and here's another thing. I think Star Trek is probably hated the most by Star Trek fans.
Of course.
But why?
Even Star Wars fans don't hate Star Wars as much as Star Trek fans hate Star Trek.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, when the new trilogy came out, episode 1 to 3, people really legitimately hated it and hated George Lucas for ruining Star Wars. But the memes seem to have made people like it again.
I think to some extent the prequels, there was always a fairly large contingent of people that liked it. But I see what you're saying. Yeah, that's true. Prequel memes definitely had its impact.
I've got to ask this because for our listeners, we have a couple of our hosts this evening that are in other parts of the world. So it's not just the U.S. This is a question that I want to throw out to you, Murph, and you, Yaz, because you guys are not in the U.S. This is a post that was in r/Star Trek Discovery. They're one of the members of United Federation of Reddit. And there was a post here, a user by the name of Kev Travels. So Kev Travels made a post, and the title is, "How popular is the show worldwide?" So that's my question for you guys, is we see how it is here in the U.S., but I want to hear, Yaz and Murph from you. How popular is it where you guys are?
I mean, Star Trek's pretty popular.
I'll let you go first.
All right. I mean, Star Trek is pretty damn popular in Australia already. Really popular here. It is very, very popular here. So the other thing is, I don't know, the Australians that I have talked to about it, the non-fans I know that have seen it liked it a lot. The fans that I have seen it, that I know that have seen it, also generally like it. Now, obviously, that's just my personal experience, but anecdotally speaking, I think people here seem to be less critical of it than Americans have been, I guess. But again, that's just anecdotes. I don't really have data to back that up. But it seems to be doing pretty well in Australia, at least. And yeah, I mean, Star Trek's pretty popular here, so that I guess people will be happy to see, to get what they can. And that seems to be the mentality that most people have. Now, I've met one or two people that are sort of like, oh, I don't like, I've heard a couple of, the standard sort of complaints, but most people by and large, like the proportion of people that dislike it seem to be much lower than what I see on Reddit, at least.
Yeah, I have the same kind of experience here in Ireland. Basically, there's people who, Star Trek is moderately popular now, like over here. I mean, it was hugely popular in the 90s, but I'm not sure about now. The basically, the reboots, the reboot movies, pretty popular over here. Same with Discovery. It seems to be pretty popular as well, and it seems to be well received. Not so much criticism, and from very passionate Trekkies, where they say, it's not my Trek kind of thing. So yeah, it seems to be pretty well accepted over here.
Murph, you just brought up something that I can't believe we are this far into this episode that we have not talked about, but it is the emergence on Reddit and Discovery, the Not My Trek.
It's so stupid, the idea that you don't have to like it, but the idea of saying, people do this a lot, like all these people that criticize it, they so often say, "Oh, it's not Star Trek." It's like, who the hell are you to proclaim what is and isn't? It's. I mean,
right.
If you don't like, I don't remember now. I wonder what the memories of these people are like, because I remember when DS9 came out. I was pretty young then, but I remember that anybody I knew that liked Star Trek hated it.
Yeah.
My parents, who were and still are really hardcore Star Trek fans, they absolutely hated it, and I could not watch it back then. I was not allowed. I wasn't even allowed to watch it because they hated
didn't
it
let
so
you
much.
watch it. It was that bad.
They didn't let me watch DS9, so I didn't actually get to see it until about 7 or 8 years later.
Those are hardcore fans.
Yeah, and DS9's reception, I would even argue, was way worse than Discovery's is now. But for some reason, I still don't remember anybody then saying it's not Star Trek. They just thought it was bad Star Trek. But now, if they don't like it, it's all of a sudden it's not Star Trek at all.
It's funny because there was, I'd say about 3 weeks ago on the Star Trek subreddit, someone had posted letters that were sent to, I think it was CBS, stating that, why they think that The Next Generation was not Star Trek. Which is kind of funny because
you have to stop right now. I cannot listen to anymore. You are telling me that someone really is going after. Isn't The Next Generation holy ground?
This was in the emergence of Next Generation when, the first season came out. People were sending letters to CBS. Yeah,
I'm sorry. I thought you meant that now they're trying to do that.
No. That's a good point, because I do remember seeing that on Reddit. People do linking like stuff from the 80s of before or around the time of season 1 of Next Gen. People saying how much. Yeah, that's a very good point, Murph.
I was 12 when Next Generation was airing, so yes, I do recall during that time that there was a lot of criticism about Next Generation, that it wasn't Star Trek, because if it's not Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, then it's not Star Trek. And you've got a bald captain, a robot. Are you kidding me? A Klingon, and it was unbelievable.
They must have hated it.
Oh boy!
I got a funny little story about the original series. I was like maybe 3 when Next Generation started, right? And so I was watching it. My parents were like religiously watching it, and again, being huge Star Trek fans. And so I, as a little kid, for years, I thought that Next Generation was the only Star Trek that there was. I didn't even know about the original series because it wasn't really on TV then. So then when they released a movie and I found out about this movie, I was like, who the hell are these old dudes? Like, that's not Star Trek. Who the hell are they? Because I genuinely didn't know who Kirk and Spock and McCoy were. And my parents had to explain to me like this is like a 5-year-old me, and they had to be like, no, this is Star Trek before Star Trek. And I was like, That's not Star Trek. Star Trek is with Picard. You know, so it's so funny to me, like that there's people who just like they have this mentality that, and I guess they were doing it in the 80s when Next Gen came out, that just have this idea that they're going to be the arbiters to proclaim what is and isn't Star Trek. You know, the idea of that is just so absurd to me.
It's been happening since Next Generation. You're right. There have been naysayers about Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Enterprise, now Discovery. And here's the thing that gets me is that, just the negativity about Star Trek, and then on the same day, you'll get fans clamoring for more Star Trek. You know, we want more content. We want more shows. And, you know, we want this, we want that. And it's very, very, funny thing that you bring that up, because there was a post I just happened to see on Reddit earlier, and here it is. This is by TrekFan74. And TrekFan74 says, hearing about the plans for Enterprise 5th season still breaks my soul. We never got one more season. And I think that's very ironic, because here's the thing, and I think they're going to do it with Discovery.
People hated Enterprise when it was out.
Oh, hated. I mean, it was, people could not wait to bash Enterprise every week. Yep. It was all, and it breaks my heart to see, you see these threads all the time. You know, we wish Enterprise had a 5th season. Look at the stuff that would have happened. We would have got this. We would have got that. And I don't say it. I want to. It's just, I don't feel like getting downvoted. I just want to say, you people are the ones that wanted Enterprise off the air. Yeah. Well, maybe not you people. I mean, I'm sure some of these folks complaining weren't even born when Enterprise was on, but the fans wanted nothing more than to bash Enterprise. Then it got canceled, and then there's all this, well, what could have been, what should have been, and it's funny. It's because we did it.
Well, I remember people being happy when it got canceled. Like I remember. Yes. I remember being on forums, and it got announced when it was announced it was canceled. There were so many people that were like, yes, it's gone, and I was like, how is that a good thing? Yeah, like,
when was it canceled?
The only Star Trek that is being made, the only Star Trek we have, just got canceled, and you're actually happy about it. And they were celebrating on forums and stuff, and that amazed me, and it still amazes me, especially now. Like you point out, the irony of everybody loving Enterprise now,
and wanting that 5th and 6th season.
Yeah, it's kind of fun.
Should you ask, why did it get canceled?
Well, when? I'm drawing a blank of
2005, 6 maybe.
I think it was 2005. It was at the end of the 4th season. Was that 2005?
Yeah, I think it was 2005. It was 2005.
Someone who hasn't actually watched Enterprise, was there anything that you could say was legitimately bad about it?
Yes. The decontamination scenes were legitimately bad. I am somebody who I liked Enterprise when it was on, but even then and now, so they have these scenes where if you haven't seen Enterprise, I'll
don't
explain
spoil
it to
you.
you.
He hasn't seen it yet.
Okay,
you've already spoiled it as much as you can.
Well, the thing about Enterprise, and if there was anything that was bad about it, you've got to let me take you back to. Well, let me take you back to the early 2000s when this was about to air. And actually, let me take you back a little more. And this is probably a little more strictly U.S. I'm not sure how it was done overseas or in other countries. But for me, Next Generation and Deep Space Nine was on a regular primetime network called Fox. And Fox had Married with Children, The Simpsons. It was any show that was a big show was probably on Fox. And Next Generation flourished on Fox. Deep Space Nine did very well on that network. But so then Paramount got it in their heads that, well, we're going to do our own channel. It was kind of like the early streaming where Netflix has streaming, Hulu has streaming, now CBS has it, Disney's going to do it. Everyone's doing their own streaming. Well, they came up with the United Paramount Network and UPN, and their flagship show was Voyager. So instead of having Voyager on a tried and proven network like Fox, as their predecessors did, they used Voyager to launch their own channel of content. And basically the only thing they had was Voyager. Like, there were some other shows. I think they ended up getting wrestling on there, some other stuff. Nothing really of note. And so then what happened was, Voyager made it its 7 seasons. And then when Enterprise was going to be coming around, of course, it was going to be on this network, which still didn't really take off. It was just, languishing. And the only thing that was going to support it was this new Star Trek series. It was going to be Enterprise. And also this was, at the height of the Berman and Braga sexualization of women on Trek, skin tight suits, bigger breasts means bigger ratings, kind of thing. So it was just a whole.
Voyager kind of had that problem too towards the end. Absolutely.
Voyager decided they needed to up their ratings, and you saw how they did it. Which is funny because it seemed like with Voyager and Enterprise, they were the early Reddit, the upvoted because girl.
Yeah.
And they did that with 7 of 9, and then T'Pol. They were trying to appeal to a demographic that didn't exist for Star Trek.
They tried a lot of things in Enterprise as well. Like, I think a lot of the things they tried, I think they mostly did well. I mean, but I think Enterprise, typical Star Trek, the first season just wasn't that good. Season 2 was better.
Right.
Season 3 was serialized, and I quite liked the serialization of season 3. Although it still wasn't as heavily serialized as Discovery's, but it was pretty close. And then they kind of moved away from that in season 4 again. But 3 and 4 are the popular ones with that show. But by that time, I believe it was too late with the network. They had changed. I'm pretty sure the guy that was in charge of programming was a huge Star Trek fan, and then he left or he got fired. And the new person didn't like Star Trek that much. And
didn't know the difference between Star Trek and Star Wars.
Yeah, and so and Enterprise still wasn't having, it wasn't having great ratings, and so they were just like, nah, get rid of
it. That is true, and that is why I'm really hoping that the online and social media community realizes and maybe learns from the past that don't beat Discovery so bad that 5 years from now we're going to be seeing posts that says it breaks my heart what we would have gotten in Discovery season 3 or Discovery season 4. It's like, okay, well,
how long did it take us to get another show? 2005 is when it got cancelled, and it took us 13 years before we got another show. I mean,
when did Discovery premiere? Was that 2018? Was it
18? Maybe late 17.
Yeah, so let's say about 12 years.
12 years, yeah. That's how long it took us to get another show. And if this stuff doesn't do well now, if it doesn't, it is doing well. But I mean, if it hadn't have done well, it could easily be another couple of decades before we'd get more.
And we're doing it to ourselves.
But now we have 5 or 6 different shows, Trek shows that are coming this year.
Yeah.
Oversaturation.
I don't think they're all coming this year, right? Like, I think the Picard show starts this year. The Giorgio one, I think, isn't scheduled to start for a while. That's not starting this year. I don't know when Lower Decks is going to be starting either.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I want to know more about that. Is it going to be like, is it going to be like, you know, like a Robot Chicken type of thing, or is it going to be like a Rick and Morty episodic type of thing? Or
from what I've heard of people talking about it, they think that it's going to be something like Family Guy in space, which again moves back to,
I thought it was the Orville.
The Orville, yeah. But like, I mean, just because it's in space and it's, you know, Star Trek, it doesn't mean that it's going to be, you know, automatically like the Orville. There's many ways of you know, of comedy that they can do. Like, you know, for example, you know, Futurama can be very similar.
That's
or
true.
Like there's a current show on Netflix called Final Space, I think it is. Yeah. I mean, I personally don't like it, but I mean, it's just another example of how you can, you know, kind of, you know, represent comedy in the Trek universe.
A lot of different ways it could go. Yeah, that's true.
Do you guys think that the Lower Decks is really coming to light and being done because of Orville? Because they can see that a Family Guy Star Trek could be profitable.
I don't think so. I mean,
right.
I think they're just trying new things. You know, like Discovery, they already tried the idea of it being serialized, and it's done well so far. The Picard thing, they're obviously trying that. You know, that's going to be its own thing. Lower Decks, you know, I hear about, if you read about cancelled Star Trek shows and pitches, they've been trying to get, like, there's been people trying to get an animated thing off the ground for years. I feel like they just had the right people at the right time. It seems like CBS is willing to spend a lot of money on Star Trek for once. And so I'm guessing they were just taking pitches. Now, this is just totally speculation, but I'm guessing they must have just been taking pitches from people who were involved in Star Trek or were interested in it. And if you remember, like, there were people pitching to CBS they've been doing it for decades, you know, since Enterprise got cancelled. We almost had the Worf show. We almost had the Riker show. There were a couple others in between.
The Sulu show. George Takei was really campaigning for a while there on social media, and
yeah, he was.
I recall some Reddit posts about the Captain Sulu show.
Was it Bryan Singer had his own one? Was it Singer or was it Fuller? No, it was Singer.
It was Bryan Singer. It was Bryan Singer. I'm trying to recall what his pitch was.
His one was, if I recall, it was kind of like that old Roddenberry show Andromeda, where it was like, you know, in the future and the Federation had collapsed. And
yes, I read his pitch. I remember that now. You're right. It was a real far in the future. And if I recall, unless I'm combining two different pitches, that was supposed to be animated.
Maybe, I'm not sure, but like, my point is, like, there's all these pitches, right? And it seems like CBS just didn't have the time of day for them, except for, I think the Riker one, if I recall correctly, actually almost got greenlit, but then Jonathan Frakes himself pulled out of it because he thought it would saturate the market too much.
And that's...
There were all these pitches they did, and they just didn't get off the ground, whereas now I suspect that because Discovery made so much money and is generally well received at this point, I suspect that CBS has a lot of time for Star Trek. So when you have people like the guy in charge of Lower Decks was one of the Rick and Morty writers, I believe. And I could totally see, again, just total speculation, but I could totally see somebody from a show like Rick and Morty saying, hey, they're putting money into Star Trek. I want to get in on that, and putting in a pitch to CBS. I could totally see that happening.
Well, I really think that if we want more Trek, I really think that it starts here on the social media, because whether producers or showrunners, like it or not, there is a word of mouth element, and I'm really hoping that is looked at, and that we as a community, put some time behind Discovery and really give it a chance. I think season one was season one. It's very much like, and this will be the last one I bring up, by Cal Bap, user Cal Bap. As someone who hated Discovery season one, Discovery season two has been great so far. And this person is right. It really feels like they're hitting their stride. 2 episodes in, I think it's great. They have stiff competition from the Orville. The Orville has been spectacular this season, and I would be surprised if it were untrue that Discovery as a show had not been paying any attention to the reception of their competitor. And I think, to wrap this up, let's talk about what are our predictions for the Reddit community for the rest of this season based on these first couple episodes.
It's been so positive. Reddit has loved it so far.
Yeah, it's been a lot more positive, which is good. I have yet to see people complain about Klingon makeup, and to me, that is a light year of improvement.
It's true. There's another post here too from Paul Durham, and it says, "Okay, Discovery owned it tonight," and they were just discussing season 2, episode 2. Frakes directed it, and of course, maybe fans feel more connected to episodes that he's involved in, and I get that.
2 takes Frakes,
right?
Smash, what's your rating? What would you rate episode 2?
See, I need to rewatch it. After listening to you guys and reading all the comments on Reddit, I'm going to give it another watch.
What about you, Big J?
I really, really liked episode 2. It really felt like good old fashioned Star Trek. And it was the little things that it did. And you haven't seen it, and I don't want to, really spoil it, because it's a good watch, but I will tell you that,
what's your favorite scene from the episode?
My favorite scene? Okay. You asked for it. I'm a big fan of space action, and there's a space scene. Now I'm going to try to keep this non-spoiler for you, yes, because you're a good guy. But it centers around the crew having to solve a problem. Good old fashioned Star Trek. We've got X amount of time to solve a major issue, kind of thing, and they come up with a solution to this. And the cinematography of just this, the shot, I know is CGI, but that was my favorite scene, was their actual implementation of how to fix this problem that was happening. And you'll see when I'm talking about, and it's just the music, cool. the scene, the music, the theme that they do, and when you hear it, you'll know that you've heard it before. I think I'll even. Oh yeah. As soon as we're done here, you've got to watch.
Oh, I'm planning to.
You got to treat yourself. Watch the second episode. It's really good. You're gonna watch it, and you're gonna say, "Wow, yeah, this does feel like, the old-fashioned Star Trek," just by how they. Oh man, it's hard not making a spoilers. You need to be caught up in the episodes next time, man. You're killing me.
Murphs, what did you think of the episode, and what's your favorite scene?
He's going to give away the ending.
No, I think I would score it about a 7 out of 10, and the reason why I'd say 7 out of 10 is because I'm trying to kind of compare it to the best of Star Trek. I'm talking about the Measure of a Man,
high bar.
Yeah, pretty much. So 7 out of 10 is pretty high for like a normal kind of Star Trek episode. I think that it touched everything that it should for a Star Trek episode, compared to season 1, which is all about war. Everything was all about the war and the prolonged storyline, but this one was kind of moving away from that and kind of being a bit episodic in a way, because they were kind of establishing a first contact. So I'd say it was a very decent episode. In regards to favorite scenes, I don't think I can actually name one. I think overall it was pretty good.
Sounds like a well-received episode. I see on Reddit it seems to be fairly well-received as well.
It really was. Well, and again, like you mentioned before, that Smash mentioned before, it's directed by Jonathan Frakes. He is not going to direct a bad episode of Star Trek. So, they have a lot going for them. They've got Frakes doing some directing, and there's a lot more on the line this time, because the first season was pretty much funded by Netflix. There was the distribution deal for overseas out of the U.S. Netflix, and I'm paraphrasing a lot. Basically, it was Star Trek. It was new Star Trek that they paid, buku dollars to get the distribution for Star Trek overseas. So they more or less paid for that first season. Were not happy with what they saw and what they got in that first season. There was a lot of mess, a lot of problems, a lot of writing issues, et cetera, et cetera. They had to get a lot of concessions. Netflix was really had one foot out the door on this. They were so pissed about the first season. So second season is really on CBS's dime now. And they have to be a lot more careful because, now it's their money. They're going to pay more attention. They're going to put out more of a quality product. And a lot of the signs and indicators were there because the short treks were made as a way for CBS to supplement, get some cash, make these short treks, sell them to Netflix, make a little side money. And Netflix said, no, for no amount of money do we want this. And it was kind of like an oh crap moment from CBS that they can't just shovel anything out and expect someone to watch it or to buy it. So I really think that those factors got them to up their quality quickly because, and some say, well, the Picard show got greenlit so quickly as a backup measure in case Discovery gets canceled. That's possible. That could happen, but I think all of us, as a online social media community, we definitely should give this a chance, and we hope that all of our listeners and subscribers out there will subscribe to our Reddit community and enjoy this podcast, so you can see just how rich and unique content created by the greater Star Trek community can be. And as Q would say, see you out there.